Anyway, I'll start by saying that I'm Paul Wessel. For those of you who haven't met me before in person, welcome to this second GMT contributor meeting online. We'll try to have this done monthly.
But Paul, your shirt says that you are Leo. That's going to confuse the new.
That's in honor of Leo. It's I think we went there together, did we? Were you at the Biosphere, Leo?
Yes.
Yes. That's that. So that's how I get back.
That's just how much you miss me, right?
I missed Leo. Where is Leo? He left. Suddenly, one day, the office was empty. Very strange. All right. So, okay. So I'm Paul, and should we go? How can we do this then?
Call out people.
All right. I'll do. So, Walter, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Walter. Hi, everybody.
Joachim. You're muted.
Yes, I muted myself. Well, I'm Joaquin. For those who we don't know, but we had two persons that I'm not seeing now. No, John Ellie never show up. Oh, Esteban he came back because
he came back. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Joaquin.
And Leo, I guess.
You are following?
Leo.
All right, Dong.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Dong. I'm from Michigan State University.
Excellent. Yeah. And we have Christoph.
Yeah, hi, I'm Christoph. I met most of you last time, and I'm not one of the core GMT developers. I'm just mainly enthusiast from Germany.
Excellent. And then we have a Python expert, Wei Jing.
So I'm Wei Jing. I'm currently based in New Zealand, the Victoria University of Wellington, or Antarctic Research Center. Just doing my PhD right now.
Cool. Welcome. And then we have visitor Esteban.
Hello, I'm Federico. My name is Federico. I'm from the University of Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Argentina.
Very good. And then John, are you there?
He's texting me, but we don't see him.
Oh, it's texting. Okay.
But yeah. No. I'm trying to reply, but.
Oh, John, I'm muting. I don't have he doesn't have a camera and he's muting, but he's there. Okay.
So he's hearing.
It's hearing, but he can't speak. I guess.
Okay. Yeah, but
I could hear. I could barely hear Esteban, so I don't know if we captured his audio. I couldn't hear him very well. I heard he was speaking, but not loud enough for me.
Yeah, it was
coming through clear.
Anything you can do on your end, Esteban, to get the sound better? I'm not sure. It's kind of automatic, right?
I heard. I think it.
Now? You can hear me now?
Yes.
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
But it's still very quiet.
I think he didn't say many words, so.
Oh, yes.
But we can hear. I heard him.
Yeah, it's still a little low. It's still a little hard to hear.
I'm from Buenos Aires, University of Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Okay, that's clearer. Good. Yeah, maybe speak closer to the microphone. All right. So to try to keep some track of this meeting, we have the agenda. I guess you all have the agenda on the forum. Leo, are you still taking notes? Did a good job last time. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yes.
So the one thing that's coming up pretty quickly is to get back to UNAPCO about the GMT for Geodesy online course. And we had a little bit back and forth on email, I think it was. Perhaps we should probably put that on the forum to define how we're going to run an online GMT class. And Leo had some good ideas about this, which I agree that we don't want it to be too many hours staring at the screen at the time. So breaking it up seems like a good idea. Make smaller pieces with a well-defined goal and a mix of delivery, background, and having exercises and that sort of thing. So I like that model. So I thought I'll start creating a Google Doc somewhere for filling that out a little bit more. And then we have to see who can contribute to the workshop. So just some background information, last year it was me and Leo and Joachim and Dong Dong that ran the meeting, and we had help from Eric Zhu from Scripps. That was a physical meeting, so we could run around and help people. It'll be a little bit harder to help people with their laptops this year. So that's one problem, potential problem. We probably have to do some homework before the workshop to make sure people are actually up and running. And I think Dave has done this, Sandwell has done this for the GMT SAR portion pretty well. They have a bunch of exercises they run before, so they know that things are working by the time they start the workshop. We can do something like that too. So I think that should be doable. And we'll learn from this workshop, and there might be a model for future workshops if we're going to do more online ones. And I think that's useful regardless of COVID-19, right? To have some sort of polished online workshop, given that people are using GMT all over the world. We can't expect people to show up at AGUs every time to do this. So this is kind of interesting to see how this is going to work out. So I'll be in touch on the forum asking for volunteers to help. And I mean, there's no particular skill set needed here other than being somewhat familiar with GMT, right? If we're not coding, we're just running simple examples and teaching newbies how to run GMT, make maps, plotting lines, that sort of thing. So once you start fleshing out the thing, some of you who haven't been involved before might want to join this, So that's to be determined. Anyone have any questions on this? Okay, Leo.
Yeah. So just to say as well, if anyone is interested in helping out, I think the majority of the help is mostly just keeping an eye on the means of communication and see, just so that we notice that people are asking questions. Because if you're presenting, sharing your screen, it's very hard to keep an eye on a chat or something else where people are going to be asking questions. So just having extra people, just eyes on the chat, that really helps.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, Christoph.
Maybe something like a tiered approach would be great. So you have like guys like me with not that much experience to do the watching the chat and maybe answering simple questions and passing the more difficult ones or questions which get asked multiple times on to you, so you might explain them to everybody.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to do that. I agree with that. It's hard to keep track of people. So when I run a faculty meeting with 25 people, it's really hard to pay attention to the chat room. I mean, I always forget the chat room. Sometimes I see people use the hand icon on the side or not. So it's really important to have someone else than the person who's trying to present something to pay attention to what happens. So I'm sure we'll learn that the hard way, but I think that's a good idea. Good. All right. So should we get back to the details on this through forum and Google Docs once you start flushing out the topics? And I figure we'll sort of follow the model from last year. We have material from last year. We just have to adapt it to a different timing schedule and how we deliver it, I think. All right. The next was just a little bit GMT development news. So since last time, we've gone through the naming Nazi. That's me. I've gone through the code and we've changed the names of a bunch of static local functions to have follow a standard, right? So every module that has a static function has a name that starts with the name of the module. So if something goes wrong and you report an error, you know exactly where things are. And the idea is that it helps new developers, to just have something to follow, that if they're going to do something, these are the rules. So you try to write up a better developer document for how to create a new model and how to build supplements and that sort of things, and have a little bit more standards in the code. We've also spent some time improving how we connect the modules to the libraries and the splitting into shared libraries. It turned out that what we had worked, but it worked because of all kinds of sneaky things, such as the supplemental library knew about the core functions that had been exported back into the supplemental library. So it worked, but there should be no reason why the shared library should have any knowledge of what's in the, in the core library. And certainly third-party libraries like MATLAB, MB system and others, they should be separate shared libraries with no connection back in. So we spent some time figuring all these out, and I think it all works now for Windows and Linux and Mac OS. And the glue that has to be built to hook things together has been vastly improved. Dong done a great job in CMake. So it's all sort of hidden now and automatic. You don't have to think about those things. It just happens when you run make build. And the same thing for the supplements. There's still some more work to do and some documentation. We've started trying to document that. We want to make it easy for people who have third-party supplements to build. So these are, one is the MB system, but I have third-party supplements. Joachim has them, and others have them. And the CMake building can be a little bit intimidating for someone who's starting out. And we're trying to make this, as smooth as possible. So there's been some changes there. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah. Paul? Yeah.
So before we leave that topic, did these changes require any changes in the core API, or was it just a supplement code?
And no changes to the core API. This was mostly just how the supplement is built by CMake and making sure there were no cross connection that didn't need to be there. Because the key thing was when you say GMT help and you get a listing of all the modules and stuff, the way that worked wasn't done right initially. It worked, but it wasn't doing it quite right. So there wasn't a decoupling between the libraries. So now that it's been done, and it's much better. But this is all, users will never see any of these things. It's just how the C code works.
Oh, yeah. There were changes not in the API, but there were changes in the C code, in the main code. Remember, Linux was broken. Remember that night? Yeah. The whole night debugging.
Yeah. Wait, there was a long winding road to get
because you were not believing me. And so those changes, the fixes were done on the GMT API C code.
Yeah.
Although it did not change the API functions. No, they should not have broken. You should not have broken PyGMT or things like that. There were not API functions that were changes, but there were changes in the main code.
Yep, there was definitely changes in the main code, but it didn't affect the official API. And of course, we have the unofficial API, which is all the GMT library functions that folks like MB system actually uses directly. So there's always that scary thing where you change a function name, and then, oh shit, MB system actually uses that. And we learned this, 6 months later. So we actually been working a little bit with Dave Caress, MB system too, to help himself a little bit. I rewrote his MB grid image, whatever it's called, that makes it because it's basically 90% GRD image, and then at the end, he writes out the geotiff. So we talked about this for years, and so I figured I'll just rewrite it, and so now it's just calling GRD image, returns an image, and then he writes out the geotiff.
I think now it's convinced that the GRD image can do everything that model can do.
Yeah, it could actually go away.
It took 10 years, perhaps, but maybe.
Yeah. So this then begs the question: if these are unofficial API functions, so they're not really API functions, but people use and depend on them, and we are worried enough about them that we have to be careful with these internal functions, then maybe they should just be part of the official API so that we're actually always careful, since they're pretty much being treated as API functions already?
Well, yes and no. So this is part of the documentation that I actually am working on for how to build supplements and what are the rules things. Because there are supplements that only use the API, and and we guarantee that to be well documented and stable and all that stuff. And then there's 1,000 GMT lib functions that we make no guarantee that these will always be the same. They're not documented. There's no place you can read about them. You just have to scrounge the code. But this should be spelled out very clearly that, there's a small risk that you have to be ready to make some changes in your code if you develop code that uses these low-level functions. Because we're not ready to document 1,000 functions. And, they're just too low level.
I don't mean all of them. I mean, like the ones that are being used, whether we say it or not, right? Because they are being used, and you're saying that we could just say, well, that's not our problem, but clearly it is.
Yeah, there's not that many that he uses, and we can certainly be aware of those and try not to make any changes there. We kind of are aware of them now, but
there are more, Paul. There are more. It has its own functions for writing reads and reading.
That's right.
Instead of using the I/O, which I don't know how many he's using because I never dug into that in detail. Yeah. But he has a function from all the times. If well, maybe in 10 years we will persuade him to use the I/O, GMT I/O, and with the advantage. But he still has his own functions that use the set to net. I don't know how many he uses, Leo. Actually, we would have to study or ask him to make a list of them. But they can be more than we actually know.
Yeah.
I understand what you say, but it's not easy. One of the sides would have to dig and have some work to come up with a full list of them.
Yeah. I mean, to do the renaming, I ended up writing a stupid little C program that scanned the whole code base and figured out what was static and what was local and what was called in what module and all that stuff to see what we had. And we have, thousands of functions. Some are declared in one C file and called only in the other C file. So it should be moved over, and made static there. And so we can reduce the footprint on certain things. It's just a big job. That's a chore. And, in these troubled times, you want to do more fun stuff than chores. So this is like cleaning your room kind of thing. I've done some of that, but I can only do so much, and I have to go do something fun. And fun things are like writing new modules. So it's kind of funny. I haven't created new models for a while, and suddenly I wrote 2 within a couple of days. It's very exciting. How quick can I get something from nothing to actually working? And the answer is about a day. So that was kind of interesting. So I wrote a GRD mix, which is a tool to do some mixing between images and grids. So let's say you want to take the blue marble Noah photo or mosaic, and there's a black marble for nighttime with lights, and you want to blend them according to where the sun is and add some intensity shading due to the topography. That's what GRD mix can do, and it's pretty simple. So we added a new example of how to wrap this on top of a sphere, and I'm working on a high-def movie version of that. So that seemed pretty useful, and that was pretty easy to do. And with Joachim's image stuff in the background with Gedal, it just kind of works. You just read in an image like a grid and do the math. It's pretty simple things, but it's useful. And I added a bunch of other things that I could think of, like take an image and strip off the alpha layer, or add an alpha layer, a transparency, or do a few simple things that at the interface between grids with data and registered images, because you often have that kind of stuff and you need to combine things and it's awkward. So that was one tool. The other one that I needed was, this example here is, let's say you want to process 1,000 data files, right? Okay, so you write a little loop script that does things. But then you don't take advantage of all the cores because that's hard. So you get stuck with breaking into many small scripts to run on the different cores and machines. And I realized this is kind of like movie. So movie is basically creating images for a movie, and it does this in parallel, right? It runs as many jobs as there are cores per frame. And I realized a batch processing is the same thing, except it doesn't make a movie. It just runs these scripts in parallel. So I took movie, cut it in half or third, and now we have a program called batch that works the same way. If you have a script that you want to replicate number of times over data files or times, whatever it is, it will automate all that parallel thing for you with a few simple variables. So that's something I've been missing for years. Every time this comes up, you have to write the dumb script that creates jobs that I can cut into 8s and put it on the 8 cores. And it's just very tedious stuff. So this actually, I'm very excited about this tool. I need this myself. You want to try 100 different filter widths on some grid that takes forever to run. This breaks it up automatically and does it. So that's the new tool. There's only one example so far. There'll be more. And Walter has a hand.
Yeah, I was just looking at how we've been doing this parallel stuff on our little Macs here, and there's a thing called xargs. I don't know if that's generic or specific to our OS or what, but you can essentially have a script like that, and if you start it up with or have xargs in it at some point, it figures out how to split the job up among the different processors in parallel and stitch it back together again.
Yep. Yeah, I'm vaguely aware of xargs. This is a little bit, it takes advantage of some GMT things that one couldn't really do through that. But yeah. Yeah, I should look more at xargs actually. But
well, no, I'm not telling you to do something else. xargs may be limited to certain environments, and what you're doing may be completely generic for all GMT users. That would be great. You also maybe could have some way in there of figuring out whether things could be reused, like a task I can imagine us wanting to do over here a lot is the functionality of, say, GRD track or something, with always the same GRD file, but with an enormous number of track files. And, calling that once per line, once per file in a script loop or something like that would, of course, load the grid file and figure out the boundary conditions and everything every time. It would be fantastic if there were a way to make that smart, so it would do that piece once and then pull all the other inputs through it or something.
Right.
But if you have a multi-segment file, it will do all at once, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not parallel, that's quite a bit separate issue, but it would that only once, load the grid only once, and then it would go through all the lines, the profiles, to do the GRD track thing. Multi-segments are very good for that.
Yes, I agree. Multi-segments is the right way to do it, but if you already have a data structure imposed on you where you have a sequence of things in files. Maybe you have every revolution of a satellite around the Earth is a new data file, or maybe every day of satellite data is a new file. And for other reasons, the whole rest of your database has to be structured that way. Then you'd have to write a tool that would translate all that into multi-segment GMT, do the job and translate it all back and stick it all in the appropriate files. Files I'm thinking of it would be an enormous number of separate files, each one of which is netcdf and compliant and so on. So you could figure out immediately, where the lat lon is and add, add this sort of GRD track capability. But anyway, that's something that's on my screen to do one of these days.
All right.
I'm playing Leo and say make an issue.
Yes, make an issue.
Make an issue out of it. Just typing, although you don't have to submit any code. Just type your request in the GitHub. Make an issue.
Well, I noticed that Jerry.
Where's your GitHub account, Walter?
That's right.
Yes. No. Yes. Well, no. Yeah. Well,
not sure if Walter has a GitHub account.
No, he's here to reply. I don't have anything. Yes, but
I do, I think, through GMT, but there was some issue. Noah, we were supposed to use GitHub, then we were supposed to not use GitHub, then I was supposed to use it again. So I've lost track of where my GitHub status is, but just to answer Joachim's point, yes, of course I can request these things, but I'm supposed to be able to develop them myself and not.
No. It's mistake. Paul.
Yeah. The cloud
we do many things that you write the issue first because for example you are not supposed to work on that immediately and you leave it there for not forgetting and to put out the point. So just make the request. We do that as well.
Yep.
Not it is not that you are supposed to do it yourself. And even if you're going to do it yourself, if you once at the time that you are thinking more on it, you have the details more clear. You put it down in the request, and sometimes even the old ones they happen to cross other things that are being done at that moment, and miracle, that's all as well.
Yeah, and other people will come and help with certain things as well. So it's good. I just briefly looked at GRD track, and it doesn't use OpenMP, for instance. So there is a low bar of adding something in there to speed up some operations, for instance. We think about what's the optimal way of doing that, but I like the OpenMP because it's so super trivial to add 2 comment lines to the code if it's set up to do something very simple, and we should do more of that. Let's see, what else can I say about that? So, the postdoc. So last month we talked about the postdoc, and we all wordsmithed a document. So it's moving through the UH system right now to get sort of through HR to be published as an online job description. So it's not up yet, but any day now, I think. And I'll share that with all of you, and we'll post it on the forum and a variety of places to attract people. It allows for telecommuting to work, right? Because it can't really expect people to move to Hawaii right now. It's complicated. They can. I mean, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then you're good. So people still doing that, but UH allows people to work remotely, but they have to be in the US for tax and payment reasons. So we can't have people anywhere. They have to at least be in the US. So there's some limit there, or they have to move to Hawaii. So I'll keep you updated on what happens there. Next on the agenda is the 6.1 release plan, and that sounds like a broken record. I think we talked about 6.1 release plan since way before summer. And this is like a discipline thing. We need someone to just come with the big stick and hit us and say, here's the date, get it done. Because it's just a question of drawing a line and saying, okay, well, we're just going to release things. I think we're close, because I ruin it by adding more modules and need some more documentation and things. But there are people who are suffering in this world who aren't installing from GitHub, and they're on 5.3, and it's painful. We need to improve that a little bit. Yes, Leo.
Right. So since we have this trouble of there's always one more thing that you want to include, but there is enough progress that we're going to have stuff to release in every half a year.
Yeah.
So we could do just a scheduled release instead of waiting for certain features to be included. So since the release is still a little bit of a pain and it takes a lot of work, it's not easy that you could release, every time you have 1 or 2 new features, you make a small minor release. So since that's a bit of a pain, then I would think that maybe every half a year, just have a date where whatever is on the repository you release as a minor version. And then if you have bug fixes, you can have those more often. As soon as you have the bug fix, you could put out 6.1.1. But if it's for new features, it might just make more sense to just schedule 2 dates every year.
Yeah, it will certainly help us to
just always release.
Yeah, always do that. But the bug, we find catastrophic bugs, and it has happened. Apple changed something, so all GMT programs crash on launch. That's bad. And then we have to have an official 0.1 something. But we always find a bug, right? It's just not necessarily affecting too many people at once. So we'll fix it in the repo, but probably not going to make a release. It's a judgment call, right? So I think we'll continue to make those judgment calls if it's important enough to do a release. But I like the periodic one because it solves that issue. No, we don't have to have this debate because clearly we're not very good at making happen. The data shows that we're not very good at releasing often enough. So yes, Joachim.
Okay, but still about that one. The renaming was a big change as well, a risky one. And yeah, it was. It broke things. And they were fortunately detected. Well, for example, the one in Linux, it was not renaming, but it just happened that it broke the Julia tests that they are run only on Linux. And then I had to investigate, and it turned out it was because of that. So it was a risky one. And we still have another one on the queue. Your changes for the 3D interpolation, it will require a break.
Change for the 3D interpolation.
Yes, you want to change. You want to add some more members of one of the headers. Yeah, we discussed that, and then that's on hold. You start working on it, and then it's on hold. That branch for the 3D interpolation, 3D grids interpolation.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Okay.
That one will require changing one of the others.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Even if the work is not done, and since we have waited so long and made so many changes, I think I would rather have it right now. So all the breaking things would be in these even is a point release, because otherwise we do it in 6.1, and then in 6.2 it will be another. If 6.2, then do that. So even if you don't need, we don't need you are working on that. You don't need to finish the work on the interpolation, but the things that needs to be done for it to work. Well, since we have done so many so far, and we did a couple, well, quite a few for this one, I think it should be those changes should be made right now, instead of for the next one also coming back in and changing some more internal. Well, it will break Julia. So
Okay.
I will do them all at once, and then have them scattered along the several releases.
Leo.
Yeah, so one way to try to avoid this, I mean, for now, there's not much to be done, but one way to avoid these situations in the future is to separate the branches that have experimental unfinished things from the branch where we make releases from. So if there's anything that, like the renaming pull request that's likely to break a lot of stuff, we can have that in either a development branch or just keep that the master branch, but then have a separate branch that has stable code. So that way, whenever we need to make a release, we can just release from that one branch and be relatively sure that there's no catastrophic, or there's nothing in there that was merged but doesn't have any documentation. So all of that can be merged into a branch, but maybe keep it separate. So some projects have a dev branch where they put that kind of stuff, and then we can merge that into master when things are ready. But yeah, I don't know. Or keep the PRs open until they are tested and ready and documented as well.
Yeah, I know I know what you mean, and we have tried. There is a problem with the branches, and there is several. It's very cumbersome, and we get tired. And me especially, then Paul next, and after comes down fixing us committing on the wrong branch because we forgot. And there is one thing in our programs that it doesn't warn you that if you are committing to branch or to the master. And we did a lot of those mistakes, and we finally decided, okay, this thing is working fine, is new. So if it breaks something, it should not break any old things, only the new. So it's not so risky, and we merge it on master. Yeah, I understand what you mean, but there is also the practical side of being very boring to do it when you have several branches. That's why some of the things we put it on master and take a little risk. What I say is when it's new stuff and you are not interfering with the older stuff, the risk is less. But of course, you still have.
Yeah, I'm just going to say,
I completely agree.
This is part of documentation of how developers. Oh, was out of sync. Leo.
No, I was just going to say that I agree, and I know it is very cumbersome. So that's where not merging or making smaller PRs and not merging them until you have tests and documentation and are certain that they're stable, then that kind of solves the problem, because then master is always well tested and finished. So don't have broken things in master. So that would require several pull requests, for example.
So we can add some code to the contributing document that sort of spells a little bit more out the purpose of the branches and, sort of preempt some of these things from happening, basically, that we all follow these rules. I just replied to Joachim's thing about breaking the Linux. That was a good thing. I mean, this was dark magic with shared libraries and how it operated. I didn't really know, but it was clearly wrong. And the only way to find it was to break things and try to figure out why it's not working. So yeah, I know it broke the Julia test, but now it works better. So you've got to take one step back and two forward, and it's actually okay. So I'm happy about that. It's way better.
Okay, but I gave that as an example that it was a risky move.
Yes.
It was caught a bit by chance because there was something else that was depending on it, and suddenly stopped working and not knowing why.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so that's that's why it happened that way. I think it was, and it's related to the problem we have building a stable GMT MATLAB interface with the shared libraries, where the MATLAB app somehow finds the wrong netcdf version and crashes. It's still black magic as to how the shared libraries communicate, and why would it go from the GMT shared library crossing over to another netcdf library that are not the right one and crash. I haven't figured out how to control that. So if anyone has any insight into the dark magic of how shared libraries figure things out, I'd love to hear it.
A little detail is black magic, because it's Apple that is doing that. It happens on Apple. You remember that we have issues open in PyGMT and Julia of things that when you build the DMG, you cannot use those libraries with neither Julia nor MATLAB nor PyGMT, because Mac managed to screw up other the way the shared libraries are found, and we don't understand that.
Yeah.
And the DMG is not reliable. You cannot use that for PyGMT.
Yeah.
You have to build GMT. You have to build GMT yourself if you want to use PyGMT and GMT on Macs.
Is that true?
Because of that mystery. Yes, we have a issue open. I think it's both in PyGMT. It came later, but it came first in Julia, and it's exactly the same thing we had from the Macs thing.
Yeah.
So it's not only restricted to that netcdf thing on MATLAB. It's more a wide thing.
Okay, Leo.
Yeah, there is now that you're saying that, I'm remembering back in 2017 when I was trying to build the Conda packages for MATLAB. Well, sorry, for Macs, the GMT Conda packages, and there was a lot of issue with the link and some in the repository in the recipe for building the package there that had to rename libraries for some reason, and never really understood why, but some of the Conda Forge Mac gurus just said that I should do that, and it worked, but it might be broken now, so.
Yes, it's probably, I know, because I did that first time I compiled Miron for Mac. The solution that we came out was to use those functions that rename the functions. So if we rename them to use our own functions, we are safe for some time that is going to use us, because they have different names from stems. But then the new upgrade and some incompatibility comes in one of the DLLs, or not DLLs, the die leaves, whatever, and things are broken again.
Yeah. So
it's really a big problem that we have far from understanding and solving.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to pose an issue, I think, so maybe some other people can look at this and have good ideas.
Yeah.
So right now, for me to, for instance, debug GMT MATLAB, I build the bundle, then I run the prep GMT script that we actually distribute under shared tools that renames all the libraries required to stick a capital X in front inside the shared libraries, so that GMT links against libx something, libx this, that, to avoid this name clashing and having MATLAB take over which library should be called. And it works, but it's clearly not a sane solution. I mean, this is insane. But that's what I have to do to actually make it run on the Mac. So I guess we should try to get more people to be aware of this, and maybe there's some obvious compiler option or linker option that we just don't understand. And I have read the whole LD man page, and it has a lot of options that have to do with these kind of things. It's just impenetrable to me, I'm afraid. All right, we're coming up on the hour, minus the initial fussing around. Any other business? Oh, I should say, so to our...
Oh, yeah, yes, there is one issue, yeah. Well, okay. Not issue, point that was not added to the agenda, but one of the reasons that Esteban is here, and
yes, I mentioned that.
is to how to contribute with small examples.
Yes. So I was thinking about that, and it's great that people are willing to help, but we don't want their help to be wasted, right? So we need to come up with a plan for how to harvest help from all the contributors. And we all know that the webpage the documentation really needs to be changed to be more helpful to new users. And I'm wondering if we should sort of find another one we like and just follow that, because you have to have a plan on how to do it, right? And we talk about matplotlib being a good model for how they lay out their things. And is that something we should sort of emulate, just sort of use that as a template?
Well, I think...
Paul, if I could, Joachim alluded to the fact that Esteban is with us for this issue. I wonder if we should hear from him, and then also from Weiji at some point, because, I mean, I know they introduced themselves, but otherwise it's just always the same, old talking heads each time. So that would be my suggestion before you end today.
Good. So, Weiji, will you want to go first, since you've been longer in the game? Anything you want to bring up?
Well, making examples. Let me think. Yeah, I've been trying to wrap like the subplot recently, and just looking through the matplotlib examples. They're like really well. Like you have like more like a cookbook style stuff, which is similar to what GMT has right now, and like those small gallery examples, which sort of focus on one specific thing. But but I have always found like the 50 examples quite useful, to be honest. Like they do use like a lot of different modules in like one figure, but it's sort of like for some odd reason I can always find one where, okay, this is a plot which I kind of want to make a plot that looks like that, and it's useful to see how like all those different things like mingle with each other. But I can imagine like for new users where like, okay, maybe you just want like one example on one say tool, say, I don't know, GRD view is a good example. Like you want to have like different examples of, okay, how do you like rotate the azimuth, like the angles, all of that. And I'm wondering like if it might be better to, I don't know, have it like inside the doc page for that module itself, or would it be better to have it separately?
Just 1 second, Christoph. Yeah, I agree with that. I started to put a few things into the doc pages themselves. Because since the RST, we could have images and everything in there. There's no reason anymore. They have to be 1980s Unix man pages, right? So now they could be. I mean, if I want to learn about GRD View, you click on the GRD View button, and you should see all these kinds of examples there. That seems like a reasonable place to, or a link, I guess, to some other place. But I like that idea to put more graphic examples in for how these modules work with smaller things. And because the examples were designed for us to showcase GMT, to show what it can do. So they're kind of complicated. Some of them are quite complicated and not, not what a newbie should start with. It's just too much stuff. But they give you ideas of what you want to make. So, but we need both. We need to show the little things, how it works, how this option affects things, plus sort of the inspiration for making more complicated plots. And I'll go to Christoph.
Yeah, I'm a great fan of the cookbook actually, because you get a bit surrounding information and you get the idea behind how certain things are done. And I really like this style of writing to understand for non-native speakers actually, compared to man pages, which are more technical terms, more precise, more in shorter way. And this is hard for me to understand it sometimes as a non-native English speaker. So I really like the cookbook in this regard. It might be a good idea to put the simple examples from the cookbook on some kind, like you said, in the documents page of some module to link there. Like have the examples on the documents page and link back to the cookbook for some expanded background of however you want to put it this way. Because we have lots of simple examples in the cookbook already, they're just hard to find.
A good point. Hey, Esteban, do you want to say something about things that bothers you with GMT documentation, or how you see us doing better?
Now about the simple samples, I've been teaching GMT here in Argentina. I have a blog with a very simple exercise, like you want. So maybe I can share all these samples with you. There's no problem with that. And I think that is also a very good idea to have very simple samples to beginners, with 1 or 2 models for example.
Yes, the examples are not well suited for beginners, and we should have something that is, basically, we have a tutorial, but the tutorial is really out of date and not very good, I think. But there should be a starting point for, first-time GMT user, teach yourself GMT in 2 hours or something like that, and then it has very basic stuff to get you going. We need something like that, I think. It was all written for ourselves, unfortunately.
Esteban actually already shared the blog. The day he did it, I took a look. He has a lot of examples.
Okay.
Yes. We have to go back and see, because he has a lot of examples. We actually don't even want them all at once right now, because it would be flooded with examples.
Okay.
But I would like also to have some on the type of Matplotlib and even MATLAB has a layout, similar layout, and R have similar layouts. I would like to have them for the simple things. The people that want to do a XY plot with the legend, no legend, color changes, line styles, things like that.
Yeah.
That's different type of examples than to go those that use the images or the grids and make manipulations and grids and use things like that. It's a different level of examples. And we might just start for a collection of scripts, do the plot, and the organization will evolve with them. I agree that it's nice to have them as links from all the man pages. Oh, sure. But it's also nice when you go and you see the usual type of things you can do, or even a bit more elaborate. You have those histograms on the side, things like that, more elaborate, and you can find them on a page that shows you just the icons, and you can easily see a lot of them, and you click and you see the details how to make that one. Yeah. And that's different from all those examples that go to the manual. But of course, when we have them, we can reuse them and link them from different places.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I think we all agree that GMT doesn't have enough documentation. A lot of things are not documented at all, right? Or have one example, maybe. But you can't run the example because it has artificial imaginary data files needed. So, it's not helpful. So that's good. So we should have a chat with Esteban about what we can borrow and use and include, and see how we can sort of come up with the plan for building out the GMT site in a controlled but planned way, so it's not just all Wild West kind of thing. Which is
and also just to mention, like with like non-native speakers, I found Dongdong and like the GMT China project, like I found like the man page is like quite useful, even though it's not in English, but I think like some of the examples might be like we can like port them to GMT itself. I'm not sure if we can have like a different languages GMT man page. That might be like a big ask, but like certainly like we can point them to like say like the Spanish version or the Chinese version, or like. And I'm also aware like that some users they would prefer like a video format.
Yep.
Of learning. I think like one person posted on the forum that is there like a video we can learn somewhere, and I found like the UNAFCO tutorial, like that was actually on YouTube. We might need to put that on the website somewhere. But but also like I think like the Indonesians, like they've got like a GMT sort of video tutorial format as well, which like certainly like we can link to like these different things even if we don't have it say in GMT itself. Yeah,
a resources page maybe, or something along those lines that we can add external links. Yeah, might as well. Yeah, that's good. All right.
Is it easy to add subtitles or a different soundtrack in a different language? So if we had a video tutorial that existed or was easy for us to make in English, let's say, could we get somebody else to dub it into another language or put subtitles in another language or something? I don't know, what is the easiest way to do that? Or if it's just a resource page, point to this guy in China who's built a Chinese tutorial, point to that guy in Indonesia. That would also work, but eventually those links get stale or they're broken or whatever.
I think YouTube offers a lot of automatic captioning and even different languages. I haven't played with that at all, so I don't know, but it looks like they have these kinds of things available. I just haven't explored it. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, you can have different languages and subtitles on YouTube. So you can provide English subtitles, German subtitles, Chinese subtitles, whatever you want, basically. The auto feature is not that good for technical stuff. It's more good for general language. But when you work over it, they should be fine.
Mm-hmm. So there are, I will have some money in this proposal for undergrad students. And, if there are things we can imagine a smart undergrad can help us do to produce videos or something like that, we should generate tasks. Because the hardest part is to come up with the task to use this labor, without thinking, oh, gee, I have to do it all myself because the student can't do it. That's a barrier. But we will have some labor, so we just need tasks for the labor.
Well, what a student can do is be a complete newbie. I've never seen GMT before. I don't know what I'm doing, and start at the very beginning and try. And that can be, I don't know, captured on video or something. And all of this kind of tutorial for beginners could be generated that way, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly good to have someone run through and run into all the problems that a newbie will see that we can't see because we're blind. That's helpful knowledge. So you want someone who doesn't know a whole lot, just enough to type. All right. We don't want this to be 2 hours. We hit the hour mark, right? So is this a good ending point? And we'll follow up with, once we get the minutes, we'll start some discussions on either the forum or on GitHub about tasks and 6.1 release plan and sort of get moving on that. And if you want to have dates, June 1st and December 1st, are those good? Does it matter, Leo?
Well, depends, right? December 1st is right before AGU. So if we're running workshops at AGU or going to AGU, that's not the time to be getting bug reports. So I would say, like, think when you would have more time to deal with all the fallout of making a release, and that's a good time to make a release.
But actually, we have this long tradition of releasing new GMT just before AGU and breaking everybody's presentations. So it's been going on for 30 years.
Yeah. Why would we change that? I don't understand. But also, we don't want to wait for many, many months to synchronize what we think is an optimal time, right? We want to get 6.1 quickly. I mean, you don't have to, start a 6-month schedule right now. We can do one quickly, and then we can pick some dates that are more sane, like mid-semesters or something. Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for participating. We'll do this every month, if that's okay. And we'll try to be more organized with agendas, and so that folks can think about what they want to bring up to the meeting. And ideally, I would send up the agenda before and ask for comments and other items that should go on the agenda. Because right now, I'm just making up an agenda at the last minute. It's not a good system. It is
a week ago. We still had a week. We still had a week. It was not so in the eve. It was.
Yeah, I did send it out a few days, but I didn't sort of make it clear that please let me know other topics, anything like that. So it was sort of top-down kind of thing, and it's not very good. Leo?
No, I'm just saying that this document, I mean, we could just keep this document open and it's shared. So you could, if you think of anything at any point, you can add it to this document, and then that could become the agenda for the next meeting.
Time, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.